Well, it's 12 noon here on the East Coast, so I am going to kick things off. I just want to welcome everybody to today's Lunch and Learn with Studio B. Thank you for taking time out of your day to tune in to see what type of offering Studio B has and to find some relief in the middle of a busy, stressful work day. So my name is Gretchen Wallace. I am the Director of Development here at Studio B, a role that I've had for just about 3 years now. In July will be my 3-year anniversary. Prior to working for Studio B, I had over a decade-long career in the banking world. A career that I loved, I aspired for, working in what I thought at the time was my dream job. However, what I was experiencing during that career was a severe amount of anxiety. I was having debilitating migraine headaches and insomnia. And being a mother of small children at the time, this really affected both my performance at work and at home. But when I walked into that office every day, no one would have known because I was happy, I was successful, I was walking that walk. But when I got home, things started to fall apart. And the reason why I start out by telling you and sharing my story is that you may have the same story, or you may see this in other people or recognize it. And it's vital that organizations provide resources to employees to meet and manage stress in a healthy way. I know, knowing what I know now from working at Studio B, if I had had these resources back when I was working in my banking career, I would have stayed. I would have stayed at that job. And now what I know is I experienced burnout. And burnout wasn't a big term back then. It's a big term now. So really what I hope to guide you through today is to show you some resources that yourself or your team or your employees can tap into in the middle of a busy workday to meet and manage stress in a healthy way. At Studio B, we recognize that stress is not going to go away. It's a natural part of being human, whether it's professional stress coming from deadlines or working with certain people, or it's personal stress. Stress is going to come into your life every single day. We can't change that. But what we hope to do is change your relationship with that stress, build awareness of what's going on in my body right now physically, that it is responding to stress. I'm not getting chased by a tiger. I'm just at work. So how can we tap into that awareness and help you and your organization build resources to, again, meet and manage that stress in a healthy way? And, I just want to throw a question out there is like, who hasn't felt a little bit of stress in the last couple of years, especially navigating through a pandemic? Can anybody relate to experiencing that amount of stress, whether it be work or personal? For me, I was working from a dining room table for 2 years. A year and a half of that was having my kids home and homeschooling them or cyber schooling them. So it was both professional and personal stress that I was dealing with. So if you want to use the chat, we can make this interactive. You can, just say if you've experienced professional or personal stress over the past few years. So let's get things started here. So right off the bat, the reason why I tell you my personal story is because I want you to understand that employees are suffering. And this image says a lot with the Post-it notes. There's a bit of humor here, which is intentional, but also there's a lot of reality. If we're looking at Post-it notes that are telling us to eat and sleep, and we have these enormous to-do lists every day, both at work and at home, we're going to get buried and we're going to feel buried. So whether your employees are suffering from personal or professional stress or burnout, the fact is that they are suffering. And let's imagine for a little bit. Let's imagine if your employees felt less isolated in their work from home situation. or maybe they're back to the office and they still feel isolated, reactive, stressed, anxious, out of control. And what if they felt more connected, engaged, empowered? Building inner resources gives you that power to know that I'm going to get through this difficult situation. And hey, the next time a difficult situation comes up, I'm going to get through that one too. So building that resilience, right? What if they felt steady or inspired? One of the biggest things that I hear from working with individuals in human resources and in leadership is, I know my people need something. I just don't know what that is. I know my people need something. I just don't know what it is. And I want to bring in this quote from one of our clients, Jen Nicastro, who works at a telehealth company. And again, she came to us and she said, I know that we need help. And for her team specifically, there was negativity. And we all know that humans have a negativity bias and that negativity can be contagious. So you just need one person kind of starting that negativity and it can catch on. So she noticed this both in herself and her team. She came into Studio B to look for resources, and we gave them to her and her team. We gave them the ability to take a break in the middle of a workday, to step away from a stressful situation when you're feeling reactive and give yourself the resources that you need. Don't step away from your computer because you're feeling stressed and then hop on social media and start scrolling. That's just adding fuel to the fire. But actually stepping away when you feel like you're in a triggered or reactive state and doing something that's going to get you back into a sense of calm. So why we do it? The present workday challenges. Things are not the same today as they were 3 years ago when I started at Studio B. A lot has changed. Our work and our personal lives are really commingled and overlapping. And there's a lot of benefit that comes from working from home or working hybrid. But there's also a lot of additional stressors that we didn't encounter before. And, some of you may have experience with remote team management and making those good connections with people that you've never met, which of course, another one is isolation, is when you are working by yourself from home, you're not feeling as connected to your team. And chronic stress becoming the norm. Like I mentioned before, I didn't recognize that I was experiencing burnout. It wasn't a buzzword back then, but right now it is. And right now we're looking at a critical time in human resources and a critical time in work culture to provide resources to people to meet and manage stress, so the stress doesn't become chronic. What we know about burnout is that dedicated employees are most likely to suffer from burnout. So that means your top performers, the people that are achieving in and day out, every month or every year, they might seem like they're doing good on paper, but they might really need some resources to tap into. And of course, human resources and managers don't have the tools necessarily in their toolbox to sustain all of this. Human resource teams have been extremely overwhelmed in tax in the past few years, and they need help themselves because they're getting an
Susie, thank you.
Sorry about that. They're getting an overload of requests and demands being put on their plate, right? And employee engagement. We know that happy employees stay, and employees' needs have shifted from wellness to well-being. We don't want to just go in and count steps and, do smoking cessation challenges. Those are kind of the old ways of doing wellness. How can we move into a notion of well-being, whole person well-being, and recognizing that self-care is community care. Self-care is community care. If I care for myself and I care for my team, we're all going to be better, okay? So I want you to also imagine if you could use some resources in recruiting, in onboarding. Could managers use Studio B resources for check-ins, for levels of support? Okay, one of the first interactions you might have with a new employee is during that recruiting process. Well, if you can reference Studio B and Studio B features, will that help in recruiting new talent? If you're using us as part of your onboarding process, can that help retain? We know the first part of that employee experience, the beginning stage, the first few months, is critically important to engage that employee. And I would imagine now more than ever, it's difficult to keep that employee engaged, especially if you're working in a remote or a hybrid work format. So I want to talk a little bit about the window of tolerance here. And as you can see on the left-hand side, the window of tolerance is an optimal state. This is what we should be striving for, where you have access to both reason and emotion and you're mentally engaged. So if I'm looking at this from an organizational standpoint, this is where I want my people to perform. My people that are in creative positions have access to their creative state of mind. My people that are in the sales division have access to that resilience to keep moving forward. So understanding not only your own window of tolerance, but understanding your employees' window of tolerance and how to keep them in that green zone. So when we move up to hyperarousal, that's when people enter into an overactive, unclear thought. They're emotionally distressed. Their body is physically charged because their body is in a stress response. And because we're hardwired for a stress response, our body doesn't know that we're not getting chased by a tiger. We're just opening an email that has triggered us. So how do we get people from that hyperarousal back into this window of tolerance? Using mindfulness, breath work, using the practices that Studio B provides. Now on the bottom side of this is the hypoarousal. Depressed, lethargic, numb, unmotivated. Now, these are things that you might recognize in yourself or people that work on your team or in your organization. Somebody that used to be really connected to their work might be starting to feel detached. Well, that should be a warning sign. How can I come in and how can I give this person some resources and tools to get back up into that window of tolerance? And again, we're naming here that mindfulness, breath work, physical activity, just getting up and out of your seat. So we start to talk about mindful activities and tools to stay in that green zone. So walking, fishing, gardening are all great mindful activities. A lot of things we can't do in the middle of a workday though. So a lot of people have these toolboxes that they've created for themselves. So on the weekends or vacation or maybe after work, they go out and they engage in mindful activities. You may have never thought of them as mindful activities, but they are, because you're doing something with intention to kind of relieve the stress of your day or your week. But it's great to have all those, but how can we work them into your workday so you're not ending your day in feeling completely depleted or in that hyper or hypoarousal state? So when you do show up for your personal life, that you're still in that window of tolerance. And we do this by introducing workday breaks. Studio B has on-demand and live programming that we've developed and curated for a busy working professional. These are anywhere from 2 minutes to 15 minutes in the middle of a workday. What do I need right now? And that's the part of building awareness, recognizing, hey, I'm out of my window of tolerance. I need to do something right now. And it could just be stand up, walk away from your desk, get a cup of coffee, have a snack, lunch, do something, but step away, just building that awareness. And so a lot of times what I hear from people is that, I don't have any time in my day. I've got a million things to do. I'm picking up the slack for people that aren't working here anymore. I cannot add one more thing. But what I'd like to share is that by adding in these pockets of time to step away, you're actually creating a bigger window of tolerance so you have more opportunity to do more impactful work. So if you're working in that hyperarousal state, you're not being efficient and you're not being as effective as you can be. This also gives you the tools to recognize when someone else needs support. So this is a tool that not only you can use for yourself, but you can use for your team and your organization. Has anybody had any experience with using a model like this or something similar that has been of benefit? I'd love for you to utilize the chat to bring that in, because we're in learning mode. There may be something that is really effective for one person or organization that we could share, that we can share here in today's Lunch and Learn. So I want to share some of the data behind mindfulness. Studio B is a well-being resource. All of our content is based around and grounded in mindfulness practices. And a lot of studies have been done over the past 15 years of the efficacy of mindfulness. Particularly, a lot of studies have been done about the efficacy of mindfulness in work-based settings. So is mindfulness moving the marker on any of these work challenges that we're facing today? And I've included the links in here to some of the studies, and I'm going to be sharing these in an email after today's session so you have access to them. And what they do find is that mindfulness improves attention to work tasks, improves performance. It allows employees to better recover from Zoom or screen fatigue. So when we start to talk about, no, I don't have time to take a break, well, you do, because then if these breaks can help your work when you come back, then your overall performance has improved. And chronic stress. So with this study, there's been an associated lower perceived stress and a higher work engagement. So you're getting two benefits here. Not only are your people feeling less stressed, but they're feeling more engaged, and not just more engaged to their work, but more engaged with their company. And speaking, I moved forward too fast. Speaking again to employee engagement, is that mindfulness has been positively correlated to employee engagement. And that goes back to a few slides ago, is that we know that happy employees stay. So this directly speaks to retaining your talent and retaining your team. Which leads me into the cost. There is a cost associated with Studio B resources, as there are with all well-being resources. But what is that cost when we look at how much it costs to replace one single employee? And that's just the cost. We know that high turnover rates impact company culture. They impact productivity, engagement, and overhead. That's all the things that we can't see and calculate. But I'm sure that you've experienced this before. If one person leaves, it can disrupt a team, especially if you have a particularly small team. And with larger teams and organizations, what we see is kind of a group exodus. So if one person goes, they may take a few with them, right? So Studio B, I mentioned that Studio B's content and our platform brings mindfulness-based resources, but we also look at 5 facets of well-being, which you can see here. We look at relational, emotional, physical, mental, and social. So we're a digital employee well-being solution, which at the end of today's session, I'll give you a preview of. We are content creators. So we create content for busy working professionals. And we're a global network of mindfulness experts. And this last bullet here, I really want to drive home on, I'm going to fast forward one, is that we are a global network of mindfulness-based instructors. And this connection to our facilitators is really our superpower. We have a lot of live sessions, so giving people access to real human facilitators so that they can provide feedback, add comments. That's really where the magic happens, is what we say at Studio B, where you have the best of both worlds. You have the ease of a digital solution, and then you have the connection with live facilitators for support. And what we know about creating new habits and starting something new is that if you have a connection to a teacher or a facilitator, you're more likely to continue on with that new habit or that new that new element that you're starting to introduce. So by giving your people resources and access to live teachers, it's setting them up for success. So our live classes allow for interactive learning, meaning that there's answers and feedback in real time. They can learn from other participants. What I see by participating in a lot of our live events is that at the end of, say, a 10-minute meditation, somebody might come in with a question, and as soon as somebody else comes in and brings their voice in, everybody else you'll see in chat says, oh, I was feeling the same way. I was feeling the same way. It breaks down the isolation factor. Just to give an example, a few months back, I was on a call and I was listening in to one of these live sessions, and somebody wrote in the chat, they named decision fatigue. And that was something I'd never heard before. And this was probably right in the middle of the pandemic. At home, we were trying to decide whether or not the kids were going to go virtual or in person. And we had all these big decisions going on at home. And it was so difficult just to get to that dinner decision. Like, I was done. And I was saying to myself, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time making these little decisions. I didn't understand that decision fatigue was a thing. So when I heard it, I felt immediately a sigh of relief, like, oh, I'm not alone. And this is a thing. I'm not crazy. We all sit with ruminating thoughts and these things. So I just wanted to add that in here, is that with these live elements, it gives people a chance to feel less isolated. And it gives them a personal connection to a facilitator. And our facilitators have over 10 years of experience in their field. And they have real lived experience working in a professional setting. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. So how we do it? We do it through a digital well-being solution. All of our pages are customized to your company. So when an employee, or when you enter in, you're seeing your brand and your logo in the top left-hand corner. You have a dedicated account team. We're constantly looking for ways to engage with our content, with our end user. We have live teacher resources. We have lots of monthly events to build in a community aspect, meaning that we follow monthly themes, and with each monthly theme, we have an opportunity to learn in a webinar format, or you also have the opportunity to grow in a let's talk about it or a peer group discussion. So there are a lot of add-on features in addition to the on-demand content and the live class calendars. So we have live onboarding, we have continual onboarding. So if you come into Studio B and we put your team through an orientation, and say you hire somebody a week or two later, each month we're going to have ongoing orientations. So you can continue to use Studio B as a recruiting tool and an onboarding tool. And so they can come in and get to know Studio B and all that the features that we have. Like I've said before, we have live and on-demand class offerings, as well as quarterly programming updates. We also have our signature program, which is the Foundations of Mindfulness. So it's a very easy, accessible, short 8-week foundation of mindfulness. And I'll show that to you when we look at the page. So with that, I love this quote here. I'm sure everybody's heard some version of it at some time. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So mindfulness may seem like something different, something new, but we've all been through something different in the past 2.5 years. And something different and something new is just what your team might need. So to give you an overview, we use a tiered pricing model. So we have clients enter in at as little as $150 a month for smaller organizations and teams. You work your way up to a larger organization, and it's as little as $1 per person. So I would be happy to, I'm going to drop my meeting link and as well as my email. If you have any questions or would like to get a specific pricing quote for your team or your organization, please reach out to me. So with that, I am going to drop us into the Studio B platform. So like I mentioned before, our pages are customized to your specific company. So as you see up in the top left-hand corner, I don't know if you can read that, but it says your logo. So we would brand the page to your company's logo. So when your team comes in, they know they're getting a private experience. You'll see some banners coming across, and what you're seeing here is we're calling attention to any new content that we have. Studio B follows monthly themes. And with that, we bring in playlists or live events to accompany those monthly themes. So we're constantly updating and adding to the page. So different ways that our users interact with our page. We try to give people different opportunities to learn and grow with Studio B. And what you see on the right here are our playlists. So these, again, are designed for the busy working professional, giving people a one-click opportunity to find resources in the middle of a busy working day. So to give you an example here, if I click into micro meditations, what you'll see if I scroll to the right is there's a selection of anywhere between 9 and 12 pieces of content here. Each one is labeled and as well as time-stamped. So you really get an understanding of what you're getting into before you click into the practice. Okay, so we have a super quick 3-minute meditation. You would come in here, hit the play button. Some of our meditations are audio, some are audio and video. So gives you an opportunity to take a break from the screen. Clicking back will get me to the home screen and just scrolling back up to the top here. So you see these playlists. It's all on demand. All of the content in there is 15 minutes or less, except of course the sleep support. It tends to be a little bit longer. We're helping to get you back to sleep or get you to sleep. And again, we change these out and we add to these monthly as needed. With the class calendar, we have a robust live class calendar that gives your team an opportunity to take those short minute breaks with live sessions in the middle of the day. Today, what we're showcasing is you see there's 3 opportunities just this afternoon to take a break with Studio B, whether it be a 10-minute stretch break, a rest, or a mindfulness break. And with these, there's an add to calendar feature. So if you wanted to put this on your calendar or add to your team's calendar, you could just simply click the button. It would populate your options here for syncing up your calendar, and it would automatically link up to your own calendar. Now, doing this allows you to set it as a recurring class if you'd like to do so on your calendar, and also if you wanted to invite other people. We always encourage people to find somebody to buddy up with, to kind of replicate that old workplace, let's go for a walk. Let's take our 15-minute break together. Getting people back in the habit, in the pattern of doing that, supporting one another's wellness at work. Under the live class calendar, I spoke a lot about our facilitator team. We have about 40 facilitators on our team right now. We assign 3 to your page. So it gives you the opportunity to go in and learn a little bit more about the facilitator and see their library of content. So as you can see, Janine here has a lot of content on demand for you to click into. And she has a specialty of managing autoimmune conditions. So something that you or a loved one might be suffering from, something you could just click into and learn a little bit more. Clicking on your logo gets you back to the home page. One other thing I just want to mention as we're coming up against time here is this Foundations of Mindfulness. Now, this is a signature product and program from Studio B. And as you can see, it's 3 and 4 minutes in length. So giving you a foundation and starting a mindfulness program for yourself or your team in as little as 3 minutes a day. So we try to make it extremely easy. We try to make it extremely accessible, and we know that it works in helping reduce stress, overwhelm, and anxiety. In addition to that, you see that some of the topics we have here for other quarterly programming, navigating change and uncertainty. We put our programming on our page with intention so that we can help people go through what's going on in everyday life right now. And navigating change and uncertainty is something we're all experiencing. And again, when you click into this, you'll see that each one of the sessions that is on demand, it's labeled and also time stamped. So not trying to overwhelm folks with 60-minute or 45-minute videos, but really giving them an opportunity to take that small window of time for themselves. So with that, we are right up at 12:30, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I want to thank you for joining us today. And I want to let you know that in the chat, we will put my email address as well as a meeting link if you'd like to learn more about Studio B resources, or get a pricing quote for yourself or your team, or get a sneak peek with a demo page. Please reach out to me directly, and I will be providing some follow-up resources with some of the slides from our presentation today in email format. So again, thank you for taking this time today. I appreciate it.